Gig worker insurance. What do I need? Well, you know what? We're going to be able to help you with that. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we know that if we have a clear plan, anything becomes possible. And if you can have a clear plan, a clear process to create that plan, and a way to create clarity with your partner or spouse, you can drive to amazing heights. So if you're a gig worker and you're wondering, hey man, what kind of insurance, what kind of compliance, what kind of stuff do I need? I don't know, how do I figure it out? It's pretty easy to do, but it's really pretty important. Not even pretty important, it's really important. Insurance is one of those things where if you hope you never need it, and you hope you're like, oh my God, this is a pain in the ass, I have to pay this. But if you do need it, it's nice. So when it comes to insurance, there's three primary areas as a gig worker we're going to look at. Number one is the contract. Whatever the contract states, are there parameters within that outline those things? The second is we're going to talk about insurance agents, but not all insurance agents are equal, and we'll talk about how you find a good insurance agent. And then lastly, other gig workers, people who are already in the space and who's gone through and done this before that you can learn from. So as we get started with this, the first step is going to be in the contract. Now, a lot of times in the contract, it will actually outline what are the specific parameters of the type of insurance that you need. Sometimes it's a mass and it's a negotiable. Sometimes this is the same way for everybody. For others, it's not. Now, this may or may not be in there, but it depends on the type of work you're doing. And this is one of those areas where, I mean, you could be doing customer service to strategic advising to graphic design to coding. Who knows what it is? It's all over the place. But it's within the contract. And if you're not familiar with the contracts, I'm going to really encourage you to get an attorney to review this. Now, let me be candid on this. All attorneys are not equal, just like all insurance agents are equal. So if you choose that, hey, I want to get this covered, and maybe you just do it for the first time, just to get their opinion so you understand it better, but you need to be your best advocate. Because who knows, there may be IP issues in there, intellectual property issues. There could be other insurance things that you may or may not need from that. And when you have the contract and you talk with the attorney may be able to offer some suggestions as well for insurance. And there's another purpose in starting with the attorney. So as we go through though, you need to be able to define and vet who is a good attorney for your business. You need to find an attorney, and remember, the attorney is going to be working for you, but you need to find an attorney who understands gig work and small business. If they don't have experience in this space, it doesn't mean they're a bad attorney, it doesn't mean they're a bad person, it just means they're going to waste your time and it's going to be expensive and you still may not get the coverage you need. So if you have somebody who helped you with your divorce, doesn't mean they're not a great divorce lawyer, but it does mean that they probably don't know anything about a small business. So the number one thing when you're starting, when you're looking in and you are looking for an attorney is, first off, any attorney should be willing to give you some time, at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, of their own time on them at no cost. The purpose of this is they have business development that they have to do, and ideally you're going to become a long-term client with them. So if they're willing to give you an hour, great, but before you even go and sit down, before you waste their time and your time, you could ask them a couple questions. Simple like, hey, how many small businesses do you currently work with? And if they're like, oh, I work with 2, get a little nervous. If they said, I've been working with small businesses for 15 years and I don't know, hundreds and hundreds. Okay, that's probably a better idea. They probably have a better understanding of the space. Now, if you go to your divorce attorney and ask them, it doesn't mean they can't figure it out, but they're going to have to do a whole bunch of research. They're going to have to create new boilerplates, all sorts of new forms, whereas ideally, the attorney who's done this a dozen times before will be able to help with this. Now, so the first is how many small businesses do you work with? Great. The second would be how many small businesses or how many gig workers are you working with that do this type of work? And they may say, I don't have any. Well, you can say, how far off is this from what you have done in the past? Or who else is there? Because sometimes there are some adjacencies. But they may say, actually, I don't have any experience in that. Okay, can you recommend somebody that has? And if they can't, well, start smiling and dialing. Call around and keep looking until you find somebody who has done this. Because once you have done this, they're going to be able to go through things a lot faster. Even if they cost more money per hour, their actual total cost can be a lot more effective. But one of the main things you need to make sure you're going to ask them is, I need you to help me understand and educate me what to look for in these contracts, because I don't want to bring in somebody every contract. They may not like hearing that, but remember, they work for you, and your job is to get that education. Now, if the attorney comes across as snotty, as like, oh, I know more than you, and that's just the way it is, and suck it up, and they're like, hey, thank you very much, but we're not going to be a fit, and go find somebody that is a fit, that can help teach you, that can become a long-term partner, because their success is going to help. Now, the next thing is most likely these attorneys are going to have insurance agents that they know, that they are familiar with. May have an insurance agent, may even have an accountant. But there's a way, and we talk about this in my book, The Aspiring Solopreneur, and in the courses that we do at aspiringsolopreneur.com, that actually help show you and what are the exact questions you need to ask when you're building that team of advisors. It's going to cost you virtually nothing to get them to help build your team so that you can very safely transition. When you find small business community, attorney, accountant, banker, insurance person, they likely know other people who are in the small business space. They'll know people they recommend and people that they don't. A lot of times these guys are great networkers. And you can say, hey, thank you for the information on the contract. I feel good with this. Now, I'd like to talk to an insurance agent. Great, same fit. Let's make sure that this insurance agent has a good background and understands the space you're in and what you're looking for. Now, word of caution with insurance agents, some will try and sell you everything under the sun because that they feel is their job to make sure that if something really bad happens, you do change it. Okay, fair enough. But they work for you just as an attorney would work for you. And you say, look, I need an education. I want to get an understanding of what I should be looking for. Here's the contract. Here's what I have. Here is the work I'm going to be doing. If you were in my shoes, Mr. or Mrs. Insurance person, what insurance should I be aware of? What should I be looking for? Now, there may be what the contract states, and that may be the bare minimum. If there's some higher exposure, you may need some more. Now, I would very much encourage when you're talking with your insurance agent to say, hey, help me understand, what is like absolutely I would be an idiot not to have? What is it I need to have? What would be a nice to have? And what would be a need to have, should have, and nice to have? But need is like, yeah, according to the contract, I have to have this, and that's minimum. Okay, yeah, but realistically, you should have this. And one of those things, if you're doing any sort of service work, is E&O insurance, which is errors and omissions. It doesn't cost very much money, but it gives you a little bit of an extra background or some cover if something does happen from an error standpoint. And then also, what would be really nice to have? And it's also going to come down to what is your comfort level, what is your tolerance for risk, and you can have that discussion with your insurance agent. So between the starting off with reviewing the contract, talking with an attorney, and this, you're going to have a really solid shot. Now, the biggest thing again is that you're building in an education. You're getting smarter about what you're doing. So when you see these things in the future, maybe you don't even have to go to the insurance agent, it's covered, or you're covered. You don't have to ask the attorney. But paying for this education up front, and you're not actually paying for it because they should be giving you time for biz dev, should be worth its weight in gold, because then it'll make your time go faster and faster when you do additional contracts in the future. Now, the last place that you can go when it comes to looking for what is the right insurance is going to other gig workers. And this could be, you could ask for a referral from the person who you're signing up to work with or for, or you can even go and look online and find other people who are currently in that space. Or just look them up on, you can go to the platforms where you are proposing or where you're posting, or just Google it. And this is where, so if you are doing, you're a gig worker for coding, you get brought in to do a special project to help do some code to get to a certain level. Fair enough, easy enough, but help understand what are the risks that you have there, and you may not know. So this is where if you can find other people who are currently coding that are gig workers in that space, say, hey man, what kind of insurance do you have? And don't be surprised if they say, I don't really have any. Okay, I would be a little nervous, particularly if my insurance agent said, geez, you should absolutely have this and this. It'd be nice to have that, and but absolutely must have. Figure out what those are. But in some cases they may say, I didn't have this, and man, I got bit in the ass. So I want to make sure going forward I have this, or I do this and this now, and these are the things that cover. And in my 10 years, I've never gotten dinged. It can vary specifically, but if you go through and do this and say, I'm not doing this as a one-off, I want to become smarter about what I need, and I want to be intentional with it, it'll help you clarify what those looks like in the future as you start to build and grow your practice or grow your gig business. So when it comes down to gig worker insurance, it really does clarify exactly what you need depending on the type of work you're doing. And using and going to the right resources can help empower you to make sure that you're making the right decisions. So if you've found any value with this, would love to hear from you. Please subscribe or click on the links below, and check out some of the other videos on this channel. Or if you have questions, you're always welcome to reach out to us at aspiringsolopreneur.com. Keep smiling.